Welcome to the Home Team Sacramento podcast. I'm Josh Takimoto, and today I'm talking about being a classroom competitor. Obviously our main target audience and the main people that listen to this podcast are high school coaches and athletes, right? Our podcast is really for any coach and athlete, whether it's a little league coach all the way to a college coach. But we know that just based on the numbers and based on followers and all that, our main group, the main group that we speak to is high school coaches and athletes. And obviously a big part of every school, every program, every coach's life is having to deal with the student side of being a student athlete. And we all know that every year coaches have to deal with athletes that are at risk, or maybe they're just completely ineligible because of the academic side of the whole system. And I know from my own experience, there was guys, really good ball players that weren't able to compete because they didn't have the grades. And, when I look at the home team, I have no doubt that the majority of student athletes are great in the classroom. They're great students and they're great athletes. I know there's probably a lot of them that are out there that, maybe school is not really their thing, but they put the effort in, they put the work in, and they get it done, and they're still able to compete on the field. I'm sure there's some out there that have different challenges when it comes to learning, but they still figure it out because they get the extra assistance and help needed to continue competing on the field. The group that I'm specifically talking about today and talking to today are those athletes that just barely skate by. They give very little effort. And every time when grades are due, well, there's a grade check, right? And you have to look at the grades for the upcoming season and all those different things. They're just always kind of back and forth. And like, hey, will they make it? Will they not make it? Are their grades going to be good enough? Did they do just enough to be considered eligible and for their GPA to be where it needs to be to meet that standard? It's like they're just kind of getting by and giving very little effort. And then you have another smaller group of individuals who don't give any effort. And eventually they become ineligible because their grades just aren't where they're supposed to be. And sometimes it's not even close. They're not in that same situation where it's like, will they, won't they, will they make it, will they not make it? They're not even close to making it. They're just not putting any effort into the classroom. And now they can't compete because they're not handling the student side of being a student athlete. And we all know this is not something that you get to choose when you're playing high school sports. You are a student athlete. You don't get to just say, hey, I want to play the sports. I don't want to deal with the classroom. Those two things are one and the same. If you want to be on the field, you have to do well, or at least meet a certain standard in the classroom to be on the field or on the court. And it's always been so strange to me that student athletes sometimes aren't willing to give any effort in the classroom. Like, you wouldn't believe how many times I've had conversations with teachers and coaches saying, this person is failing PE. Failing PE. Again, this is a sports podcast directed towards coaches and athletes. If you are an athlete and you are failing a PE class, that is insane to me. PE is literally the one class that you should never fail because you are an athlete and there's a chance that you're one of the better athletes in that class. And yet somehow they've still managed to fail that class. And I'm pretty sure, if I had to guess, it's based solely on effort or solely on attitude or a lack of being willing to participate. I'm not saying these things are based on anybody's intelligence or their knowledge or anything like that. I think a lot of times when student athletes don't do well in the classroom, I think it's almost always because of a lack of effort. Because I think the ones that struggle in school, who have a passion for playing their sports, I believe they'll figure out a way to get it done. But if we're talking about a lack of effort, if we're talking about athletes who are just not willing to put any kind of time or effort into the classroom, I think that's a problem. And that's not the way it should be at all. And so this idea that we don't compete in the classroom has always just puzzled me. Because think about it. Why is it that all athletes hate failure on the field. But some of those very same student athletes are more than willing to accept failure in the classroom. Like they put their blood, sweat, and tears onto the field, in the gym, in the weight room, at practice. They give everything. They push their bodies to the limit. They give everything. Physically, they are willing to put their bodies through duress to achieve a goal that they are so passionate about. But then some of those same student athletes, if you put a test in front of them, if you give them a homework assignment, if you give them an essay to write, all of a sudden that's the obstacle. That's the challenge. That's the thing that they say, you know what? I fold. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. This class is boring to me. I'm just not going to put any effort. I'm going to stop competing. And now they're at risk of not being academically eligible to play the sport that they say they love. But see, the problem with that is that if you're not willing to compete in the classroom, and you can draw a line between, oh, I can compete on the field, but I can't compete in the classroom. I don't want to compete in the classroom. See, when I hear that, it makes me question an athlete's mentality. It makes me question their competitiveness. I've mentioned this before. They only compete when it's convenient. They're a conditional competitor. If everything's going their way, if they're doing something they like, if they're doing something that they love, if they're doing something that's comfortable, they'll compete. But the moment something gets difficult, the moment something gets hard for them, or it's something that they don't like to do, or they're not interested in, they just won't put any effort in. A student athlete should be the greatest competitor in the classroom. I'm not saying you have to be the smartest. I'm not saying that you have to be the greatest student. I'm not saying that you have to love learning like other people do. I'm not even saying that you have to try to be a valedictorian at your school. But I would expect you to put your best foot forward. I would expect you to compete. Oh, I'm not good at math. I don't care. You got to compete. Find a tutor. Get extra help. Talk to the teacher and figure out how you can do better in the class. But this idea of student athletes just saying like, well, I'm not interested in that. I don't like that. I'm not good at that. That's insane. Because if it was your sport, if you were in the middle of competition, that would be unacceptable. You would not allow yourself to fail because you didn't feel like doing something. You would push yourself to become better. You would push yourself to become bigger, faster, and stronger. But the moment some kind of schoolwork gets in the way, some athletes are saying, nah, it's just too much. I don't want to do that. And when I hear that, like I said, it makes me question even your competitiveness on the field. Because if you're allowing yourself to be defeated by something in the classroom, a certain subject you're just not quite getting, or maybe you just don't like school in general, you only like playing sports, you just don't give any effort in any class, that makes me question how much of a competitor you are on the field. Because if things get too difficult in the field, are you just going to fold there too? If things aren't going your way, if you're not getting the calls, are you going to fold there just like you would in this class that you don't enjoy, this class that you find boring, this class that you don't understand? Are you just going to give up on the field like you do in the classroom? See, I'm interested in complete competitors. I'm not interested in people who are going to pick and choose when they compete. I want people on my team. I want athletes on my team that compete in everything. It doesn't matter what the circumstance. It doesn't matter what the subject. It doesn't matter what the challenge or obstacle is. They will compete because they know on the other side of that obstacle is the thing that they truly love. If you're not willing to compete in the classroom, if you're not willing to compete in the classroom, and in order to be eligible on the field, then it makes me question how much you actually love your sport. If you're not willing to compete in the classroom, it makes me wonder how dedicated you are as a teammate. Because people are counting on you. People need you to be on the field. People need you to be at practice. And if the thing that separates you from being on the field is a homework assignment, is a test, is an essay or a project that you don't feel like giving any effort on, or you don't care about, then are you really dedicated to the thing that you love the most? Are you really dedicated to the craft that you so-called love? I don't know. From my perspective, when I see that, I don't think so. I think if you were that passionate about your sport, I think if you're that passionate about your dreams and your goals, nothing will stop you from getting there. Not even a homework assignment. Not even a subject that you find really difficult. You will find a way to get through it. You will find a way to stay on that field. You will make sure that your grades are where they're supposed to be. And I'm talking, like I said, we shouldn't, as athletes, you guys shouldn't just be skating by, just doing just barely enough to remain eligible. Again, I can't stress this enough. I'm not naive. Like, I get, not everybody loves being in the classroom setting. Some people love learning. They'll read on their own. They'll do research on their own. They love these subjects that they're in class for. The reality is, not everybody's like that. And I get that. But that can't be an excuse not to compete when you're in the classroom. That can't be an excuse for you to give no effort when you're in the classroom. It just can't. Especially if you know that your eligibility is reliant on it. If you truly love that sport, if you truly love your teammates and your team and the goals and the dreams that you have as much as you say you do, you will not let classroom things be the thing that stops you. You will not only be a competitor on the field, but you will also be a competitor in the classroom. And so, like I said, and one other thing before I wrap this thing up, I feel like, we always talk about how sometimes when you're a student athlete, you don't see some of these life lessons that you're learning right now, but down the road, you'll understand, oh, this is why that coach said this. This is why that coach said that. But I'm trying to tell you guys right now, start developing this competitive mindset right now. Not picking and choosing when you're competitive, but competing all the time, giving your best effort all the time, whether it's something you like or you don't like. Because I think the people who are most successful understand that. The people who are most successful understand that there's a lot of things in life that we don't like to do, that we don't want to do, but we have to do. And coaches, I know you feel me on this. When it comes to responsibilities, when it comes to challenges in life, there's a lot of stuff that we don't want to do, but we have people in our lives, we have families, we have spouses, we have kids that are all looking at us as an example, and they're also looking at us for support. And so if you can't support your family simply because you're saying, I don't like doing certain things, so I'm just not going to do it, there's people relying on you. This is not an option. You can't just say, well, I don't want to do this, so I'm not going to do this. No, there's things that you have to do in life. And the people who are most successful are the ones that do not compromise on that. There's no hesitation. There's no second thought. When it comes to the things that you have to do, whether you like it or not, they just get it done because they know the quickest way to continue on the path towards their goals and their dreams is going through the stuff that you don't want to do. You've got to do it. So why waste time saying like, well, I don't want to do this, or giving no effort and making things more difficult? Bear down, get it done, and keep it moving. It's really that simple. Life is full of things that we don't want to do. But the most competitive people, the people that understand that competition is not something we do out of convenience. It's not something we do when it's conditional. You compete at all times, no matter what the task, no matter what the challenge, no matter what the sport, no matter what the subject, always compete. I've said it before and I will continue to say it. Always compete. Keep it moving and get through the things that you don't want to do. And I think if you learn that now, if you learn this at this age, when you're younger, and develop that mindset now where it's just second nature, you just do it. You don't even think about it anymore. It's going to benefit you down the road. But we all need to develop that mindset. And even even grown people. There's even times where I'm like, man, I gotta make sure that I'm remaining competitive and that I'm keeping it moving. And I'm truly understanding that I don't, I want to give my best effort in everything that I do, even the things that I don't like or care about. If it's got to get done, it's got to get done. And so that's my rant for today. 15-minute rant on being a classroom competitor, but it's something I'm passionate about. I think it's something that we need to do better. And as a whole, you know what I mean? I hate seeing athletes that can't compete because of grades, especially when those grades situations are a matter of effort. And so coaches, keep holding your athletes to a high standard, keep making sure that they're moving in the direction of being a classroom competitor and really a competitor at all areas of life. Because as we know, this is, something that's going to benefit them throughout the rest of their life. So coaches, continue to hold your athletes to a high standard and keep doing what you're doing. Shout out to all the athletes who are getting it done on the field and in the classroom. You're leading the way for a lot of people. You may not realize it, but you are being a leader to people that look up to you. You're being a leader to the people around you, your family, friends, everybody, your communities. And so it shouldn't just be a matter of, hey, they're leading the way on the field and they're this athletic freak. They're this monster, this beast on the field. You should be attempting to do the same thing in the classroom. You should be leading the way in the classroom and saying, you know what? I excel in the field. Let me excel in the classroom too. Let me set the standard. Let me push the pace and let me see if I can help everybody else raise their game as well, right? That's what you do for your teammates. We're competitive on the field because it helps our teammates elevate their game. Do the same thing in the classroom. Do the same thing in the classroom. Help everybody else elevate their game as well. They may not realize it, but I think it's going to have a tremendous impact on the culture of a classroom and a school and a community if student athletes not only step it up on the field and in the community, but also in the classroom. So that's what I got for today. Please follow the podcast on all of our different social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter or X, TikTok, all those different things at hometeamsac. You can also follow us on your favorite podcast app and YouTube. Please subscribe on both of those places so that way you get the new episodes every time they drop. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. So please subscribe to all those places and just continue to follow along with this journey that we're on with the home team here in Sacramento. Like I said before, I'm working on getting more people involved with this. I'm trying to get this thing going again and really trying to get more consistent with it. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I appreciate everybody's time. And I'm just thankful that you guys are all a part of our home team here in Sacramento. And let's keep this thing moving. Let's keep making our home team stronger. And yeah, I look forward to just continuing to move along this journey and getting connected to more people and exposing more people to the awesome voices and influences and coaches and trainers and athletes that are in our home team. So on that note, we will talk to you. Man, now I've been talking too long. We will talk to you guys next week.